Outcome of minimum wage and paid sick leave measures in various state ballots. Christian school punished for forfeiting games with transgender players. Trump's first Republican in 20 years to win the popular vote by about 5 million votes. This is Dr. David D. Schein for the special episode of Saving America with our weekly update. Trump is the first Republican in 20 years to win the popular vote. Virtually all know that this is the first time since Grover Cleveland about 150 years ago that a president has won a non-consecutive presidency. Quite a historic accomplishment. Bloomberg reported on Open Secrets data that Harris' campaign and allied groups spent more than $2.185 billion trying to prevent the former president from completing what some label as the greatest comeback in American political history. This is parallel, however, to 2016, where Hillary Clinton outspent Trump by a huge margin. Note also that with Trump's significant win the popular vote, this should silence those that oppose the continuation of the Electoral College. Even though Trump carried far more states, the Electoral College stayed fairly close. This, like the criticism of the current Supreme Court, is not carefully analyzed. In fact, the vast majority of SCOTUS rulings in the last 3 years are clearly nonpartisan, but I suspect that if, for instance, a presidential immunity ruling by the Supreme Court runs into James Comer's investigation of the Biden family and possible corruption, those same Democrats will be running like crazy to seek shelter under that same immunity ruling. Yes, folks. Trump's campaign helped win control of the Senate as well. At this recording time, still waiting on a full Senate outcomes, and the House of Representatives has not been called. In any event, he will not have 60 votes in the Senate. This means that more radical proposals from both parties will not pass. Compromise will be the name of the game. The GOP missed a big chance in 1995, yes, I remember it well, folks, to crush the communist-leaning Dems. Let's hope that they don't blow it this time. Trump will be president when the U.S. celebrates 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. Trump will be president during the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. Yes, California. Trump broke a Republican record for Hispanic support by winning 45% of the nationwide Latino vote. Folks, we have a changing electorate, and it's very significant. A major focus needs to be on the economy. Yet another business bankruptcy with the Franchise Group, Inc. It includes the Vitamin Shop as well as Pet Supplies Plus. They have filed for Chapter 11 protection. The restructuring plan is to have the senior lenders take control of the company. The franchise company is in debt for a reported $2 billion. In October, there were just 12,000 net new jobs created. The estimate had been 113,000, which is still not a big number. This was the smallest monthly gain since December of 2020, as the country back then was still reeling from the COVID-19 situation. In fairness, there were strikes and hurricanes. The unemployment rate was unchanged at 4.1%. Here on Saving America, we generally focus on national and international politics to match our audience. However, a few races did justify a little exposure. Pro-criminal Soros-backed Los Angeles District Attorney Glasgow lost in a landslide. Challenger Nathan Hochman won by a major margin of 6.5% to 38.5%. Folks, that's a message that even the folks in California are sick of crime. Finally, a little common sense out there in California, but not a lot, since the idiots elected moron Adam Schiff to the Senate over Steve Garvey. Clearly a poor choice. Sadly, another loser, the former mayor of Houston, good old Sly Turner, has become my representative in Congress. Useless as a mayor, doubt he will do better than Sheila in terms of helping anyone but himself in this urban district. Remember, Sheila Jackson passed away earlier this summer. That doesn't make her exempt from my criticism on the poor job that she did for 30 years in this same district. The only positive locally was the election of Republican judges in 10 races. People are tired of soft on crime judges. As I say, hang them hot. Statewide, in a race that had impact across the country, Senator Ted Cruz held his seat against challenger Colin Allred. Despite the millions spent by out-of-state interests to defeat this conservative Cruz, Allred was his own worst enemy. The video of him opposing the popular border wall in Texas and his votes against bills banning boys and girls' sports and locker rooms doomed him. Did Allred and his supporters really think that this type of con job could be run on the electorate? Folks, that might have been worked in the 1930s or 1940s, but due to the mass amount of media and its availability today, no matter how many millions and millions you spend running TV ads with false premises, it's really hard to overcome videos of saying the opposite. In an interesting Newsmax story, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has announced a website where Americans can check if their names were used for unauthorized political donations. This is related to a House Republicans' investigation into potential foreign influence on the Act Blue fundraising platform. The report indicates that House investigators are examining whether entities from Iran, Russia, Venezuela, and China may have directed funds to support Democrat campaigns in 2024 through Act Blue. This is very serious since foreign contributions to U.S. campaigns are illegal. And with the above report, a Harris campaign spending over $2 billion, reasonable minds want to know, where did all that money come from? Revised FBI data showing crime rate increase. As a researcher, member of the public, this is a very big deal to me. Most of my audience is aware that there were massive adjustments to the year-to-date employment data earlier this summer. The number was reduced by over 800,000 jobs. That's right. It appears that this data prepared by supposedly nonpartisan government bureaucrats is either carelessly assembled or more likely deliberately manipulated to help the failed Biden-Harris administration as they face a contested election. The revised crime stats are based on a report in October by John Lott of Real Clear Investigations, also known as RCI. He reviewed an updated release by the FBI showing a dramatic increase in the violent crime stats. This makes clear that major American cities controlled by Democrats did not magically clean up their well-known crime problems. So what were the numbers? For 2022, the FBI claimed that violent crime was down 2.1%. The Dems, of course, love this report. However, the FBI released data in October showing it's really an increase of 4.5%. This is much more in line with what the citizens are experiencing in their communities, and that's a very sad observation. Christian school punished for forfeiting game with transgender player. This is a concerning report based on a recent article by Elizabeth Troutman Mitchell in the Daily Signal. I include my normal disclaimer that I am not opposed to persons who have made the serious decision to undertake gender reassignment surgery and treatment. However, I do oppose biological males competing against females. It is simply unfair. And the reality of anatomy is that once a male has gone through puberty, the development of muscle and size is already accomplished. No amount of hormone treatments can reverse that advantage. Throughout this school year, there have been numerous reports of college women's teams forfeiting games rather than risking injury playing against a trans male on other teams. This new report is about a high school women's team from Mid-Vermont Christian School in Burlington, Vermont. It forfeited a girls' high school basketball game in November 2023 against a team that had a male athlete playing for it. In retaliation, the Vermont Principals Association reportedly kicked the school out of the association and denied it public funding through the state's tuition program. The issue is that other teams across the country have faced no penalties for declining to play teams with biological male players. This appears to be a targeting of a Christian team. Alliance Defending Freedom is representing the Christian school against the Vermont Principals Association. Hopefully they will prevail. The article states that almost 3/4 of the voters say they believe medals awarded to biological men who beat females in sports should be given instead to the women who lost. And 72% of registered voters think biological males should not be allowed to participate in women and girls sports, according to national polling from RMG Research. I note that I've heard no protests of biological females trying to play in men's sports or using their locker rooms. I wonder why. I also note that this issue is very prominent in the Allred Cruz senatorial campaign mentioned earlier. The wide margin of victory for Cruz would appear to confirm that voters do not want biological men in female sports or their locker rooms. As a parent of daughters and granddaughters, I certainly feel that way. Outcome of the minimum wage and paid sick leave measures on various state ballots. Note that the federal minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009, and I support either keeping it there or simply removing it. I get criticized for that from some quarters. Folks, I'm not mean, nor am I blind. I pay people that work for me well over that. Why? Because I pay the going wage for the specific work being done in this urban area where the cost of living is high. The bogus argument about a minimum wage needing to be a so-called living wage is that not all jobs can economically pay this artificially calculated amount. Further, the cost of living varies dramatically across the country and even significantly within state lines. Time and again, statistics establish that raising the minimum wage costs jobs for students and individuals lacking good work skills. So here's how the minimum wage and paid sick leave measures fared in a few states. This is based on a post-election report by NPR, their reporter Andrea Zhu. Alaska and Missouri approved ballot measures to raise the minimum wage and require employers to provide paid sick time to their workers. For Alaska, the minimum wage will gradually rise to $15 an hour by July 1st, 2027, up from $11.73 currently. That's the lowest on the West Coast. After that, the minimum wage will be adjusted to keep pace with inflation. In Missouri, the minimum wage will gradually rise to $15 an hour by January 1st, 2026, up from $12.30 currently. Starting in 2027, an annual inflation adjustment will be applied. And the article notes that these are both so-called red states, meaning dominant Republican states. Hey, just because it's a dominant Republican state doesn't mean that the voters do smart things. Missouri and Alaska say yes to paid sick leave. In both Missouri and Alaska, employers will now be required to give workers 1 hour of sick leave for every 30 hours worked. Missouri provides some exceptions for small businesses. Oh, isn't that nice? Nebraska voters also approved a ballot measure giving workers the right to earn paid sick leave, but Nebraska's measure does not specify the rate of accrual. Note that Californians will again be voting to raise the minimum wage, but at the time of this recording, the outcome was uncertain, but leaning well towards rejection. I note that a large number of fast food restaurants closed as a result of California's high minimum wage at present. Hey folks, there's no such thing as free lunch. You can legislate paying more wages and benefits, but you cannot legislate businesses to have employees to pay it. I predict there will be less small business activity, more part-time work to avoid some of these coverages, and dramatically increased automation. Let's think about these things before we put them on ballots. And please, voters, think about the impact across the board when you vote for these things.